Shaun of the Dead is directed by Edgar Wright, and it stars Simon Pegg and Nick Frost, and is my favorite zombie film of all time, and is my favorite horror comedy, and one of my favorite comedies ever made. Now, in this review, we will get into spoilers, so spoiler warning, if you have not seen this, please go watch this. It's one of my favorite films to watch around this time of year. I watched it a few days ago, and I fell in love with it. Now, there's a thing with some films, is when you hear it's amazing, it's so good, and you watch it and you're like, oh, it was just okay. You feel underwhelmed. Shaun of the Dead isn't one of them. I laughed so hard at this film. It's one of the films that made me actually laugh out loud. Edgar Wright is such an incredible filmmaker. The only other film I've seen from him is Baby Driver, but I plan to watch the rest of the Cornetto trilogy along with Scott Pilgrim after this. His camera movements and overall direction is just fantastic. An early example of this is the two mirroring shots with Shaun walking to the store buying something before the zombie outbreak, and then he goes again, but he doesn't notice anything, but you have like the handprint on the glass and the zombies outside. And even little things like the way that Shaun walks in the morning like he's dead like a zombie, the way that they edit that together, and the editing in this film along with Baby Driver is some of the best I've ever seen. Simon Pegg and Nick Frost are obviously the huge standouts in this, especially Simon Pegg, but they just work so well together, just like early on scenes like this.
Hang on, listen. Top left. Uh-huh. I was gonna say, reload? I'm on it. Since... Oh, sorry, shot. Thanks. Oh, I'm sorry, Shaun. It's all right. No. I'm sorry, Shaun. Oh! Oh my God, that's rotten!
To later on in the film where they have to work together to fight zombies. Possibly my favorite scene in the entire film is the record scene where they have to throw records at him. He's like, oh, I like this one. Oh, no, and he throws it.
Sade. That's Liz's. Yeah, but she did dump you. Oh! Up there, some gun in the shed.
As I mentioned before, Edgar Wright's films contain some of the best editing ever, and they also use smooth transition and hidden cuts to transition from a bunch of the scenes. And one of the most brilliant scenes in this is the TV scene where they're flipping through channels and it forms a sentence. The actual zombie scenes in this are not just fucking hilarious, but they're also super well done with the makeup and the practical effects. And even the first zombie attack where they're finding her, oh, she's drunk, and then they push her and she gets impaled with a pole. It looks real, none of it looks crappy. The planning scenes in this film are some of my favorites overall. Just the editing and the way that Simon Pegg delivers all his lines, he says them all perfectly, and he says them in a way that even though he's repeating the same thing, it sounds like almost different every single time, if that makes sense. And the writing is just excellent in this scene especially. And I'm pretty sure it was written by Edgar Wright and Simon Pegg. Now, the amount of times that I praise Simon Pegg in my notes is hilarious, but the man deserves it. His performance is hilarious, but he's also amazing in the third act, where he has to actually give a good dramatic performance when they're about to shoot his mum. M-U-M. He brings a range of emotion to the character, and he's a parkour master. Nick Frost is also excellent in this, and Simon Pegg does not overshadow him in a lot of the scenes because he steals nearly every scene he's in, or at least matches perfectly with Simon Pegg. The whole third act in the pub is hilarious, and here's when we get tons of action and Don't Stop Me Now by Queen. There's little smart things, like even some of the hits that they take on the zombie where they're all hitting him in the circle are to the beat of the song. When Shaun finally punches David in this film, it made me so happy. It's kind of reminded me of Felina and Breaking Bad with, you know, if you know, you know. Ed sadly does get eaten by zombies, but by the end, you're not upset because he's locked in his shed and they're playing video games together. Another great scene is where they're basically going to commit suicide, and they find a way to mix comedy, drama, and a bit of suspense. And then the whole fucking army shows up. Overall, Shaun of the Dead is one of the best comedies ever made. It's one of my favorite Halloween-ish zombie movies. It is my favorite horror comedy and zombie movie. And I am definitely going to give Shaun of the Dead an A+. Thank you for watching my 4 spooky season reviews. If you missed them, it's in this playlist, and soon, I'm not sure if it will be on the day of Halloween or November 1st, I'm going to talk about every single horror, thriller, spooky movie I watched this spooky season. So thank you all for watching. I will see you guys next time. Over and out.